It was an ordinary Tuesday that smelled of dust, laundry detergent, and the faint metallic tang of city rain that never quite fell. Kesha Vaughn, 38 years old, stood behind the register at Comforts of Home, the small neighborhood store where she had worked for the past 9 years. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a soft, forgiving glow over rows of neatly folded towels, tablecloths, and ceramic mugs painted with cheerful daisies. She mechanically straightened a stack of thick terry cloth bath towels, aligning the edges with the precision of someone who had long ago learned that small acts of order could hold chaos at bay. In the shop window's reflection, caught in the early evening twilight, she glimpsed herself, shoulders slightly rounded from years of lifting boxes, faint shadows pooling beneath her eyes no amount of drugstore cream could erase. She looked older than 38, much older. "Honey, ring up this tablecloth for me too, would you?" Mrs. Patterson, a regular, slid the linen across the counter. Her voice carried the comfortable rasp of someone who had smoked for 40 years and then quit for 20. "Of course. Let me just check for snags. Last time you mentioned a little pull near the hem." Kesha unfolded the fabric with care, running her work-roughened fingers, short nails, dry skin, small scars from years of handling cardboard and staples, along the weave. Her touch was gentle, practiced, soothing. The customer smiled, satisfied. Kesha smiled back, but her mind was already drifting. Today was the 18th, the day she committed her small, secret crime against the family budget. When the last customer left and the heavy security shutters rattled down with their familiar metallic groan, Kesha locked the front door, turned off the main lights, and slipped out the back. She pulled her gray coat tighter around her body. The coat was 3 years old, bought on clearance. Still decent, sensible, like her. Instead of heading straight home, she turned toward the small park 3 blocks away. In the inner pocket of her coat, tucked inside an old leather wallet, rested a plain white envelope. Inside it, $40, not much. For some people, the price of one lunch at a decent cafe. For Kesha, it was the new winter boots. She had decided she could live without this season, again. But for the man waiting on the bench beneath the old maple tree, it was medicine, groceries, a little more time. Mr. Otis, everyone just called him Otis, sat hunched against the evening chill. He had been Marcus's driver for 5 years, steady, quiet, reliable, until the day Marcus came home furious, flung his keys onto the side table, and announced, "I fired the old man. He's become unreliable, forgetful, and the damn car smells like smoke." Kesha knew Otis hadn't touched a cigarette in over a decade. She also suspected his unreliability had more to do with seeing too much and saying too little. But she hadn't argued. She rarely argued. Instead, she began setting aside small amounts, bonuses, overtime pay, skipped lunches, until she could quietly replace what Marcus had taken, away from a man who had once driven her to the hospital when Marcus was too busy with a meeting, who had rocked baby Jasmine's stroller outside the pharmacy while Kesha picked up prescriptions. "Mr. Otis," she called softly. The old man startled, then lifted his head. Beneath the weak street lamp, his brown skin looked thin as paper, fragile. He tried to stand, leaning heavily on his cane. "Kesha, you shouldn't have come. It's cold." She glanced around quickly, no one nearby, and pressed the envelope into his cold, trembling hand. "Buy the heart medicine you mentioned. And fruit. Please make sure you get some fruit. Baby girl." His voice cracked. His fingers closed tightly around the envelope, even as he protested. "If Marcus finds out, he won't. You're a saint, Kesha. Lord knows he doesn't deserve you." She waved the words away, cheeks warming with embarrassment. Gratitude always made her uncomfortable. She didn't feel like a saint. She simply remembered kindnesses, small ones, the kind most people forgot. "Go home now, Mr. Otis. Take care of yourself." She patted his shoulder, thin beneath the worn coat, and hurried away before he could say more. Home was warm but somehow stifling. The television murmured in the kitchen. Marcus sat at the table, plate of cold dinner untouched, eyes glued to his phone. At 41, he was still handsome in a polished, mid-level city official way. Broad shoulders beginning to soften, hairline retreating, but the same charming smile that had once made Kesha's heart stutter. Tonight, though, something was off. He jerked when the front door closed, quickly flipped his phone face down. "You're home?" he asked without looking up. Dinner was good, thanks. I'm just not hungry. Kesha hung her coat, feeling the familiar ache deep in her calves. You look pale, Marcus. Rough day? No. The word came too sharp. He caught himself, forced to smile. It looked crooked, guilty, just tired. Listen, Kay. I have to go to Fairview tomorrow. Mandatory seminar on regional development. Fairview, 40 miles away. He traveled there often enough that she no longer asked details. Usually he complained. Tonight he seemed wired. Okay, want me to iron a shirt? He stood abruptly. His phone buzzed again. He snatched it like it might explode. I'll do it myself. Actually, you know what? Let me drive you to work tomorrow. I'm leaving early anyway. Kesha froze, cup halfway to the kettle. Marcus hadn't offered to drive her in 2 years. Traffic, he always said. Not on his route. You want to give me a ride? Yeah, why not? We're family. He crossed the room, pressed a dry kiss near her cheek. His shirt carried a sharp whiff of unfamiliar cologne, and maybe smoke. Or maybe not. She pushed the thought away. Trust had always been the foundation. Even when passion had faded to routine. Thanks, she said quietly. My feet have been killing me. Later, while Marcus showered, phone taken with him into the bathroom. Kesha realized they were out of milk for Jasmine. Her 17-year-old daughter was upstairs, studying for finals. Kesha didn't want to disturb her. She threw her coat over her house, dress and slipped out to the 24-hour bodega on the corner. The wind was damp. The light above the entrance flickered, throwing jittery shadows across the pavement. She bought milk and bread, stepped off the porch, and a figure peeled away from the darkness beside the building. Kesha gasped, clutching the bag to her chest. It was Otis, but not the calm, grateful Otis from the park an hour earlier. His face was ashen, lips trembling, breath coming in harsh wheezes as though he had run the entire distance. Mr. Otis, what are you? He grabbed her sleeve. His grip was desperate, iron. Kesha, listen to me. His eyes darted upward to their apartment window, where a light still burned. Do not get in that car tomorrow. You hear me? Do not get in. What? Why? He offered to drive you. He offered so he could control where you are. So he would know. Otis swallowed hard. His Adam's apple jerked. Don't you dare go with him. Tomorrow morning, 7:15, there's a public bus to Fairview. The regular one, take it. Why would I go to Fairview? I have to work. To hell with work. His voice cracked into a pained wheeze. This is life and death, Kesha. The life you think is yours. The cold seeped beneath her coat and squeezed her heart. She had never seen gentle, steady Otis like this. Terror swam in his eyes. Take the bus, he repeated, releasing her sleeve and stepping back into shadow. Just sit there, watch. You'll understand everything when you see who's on that bus. Then he was gone, melted into the night. Kesha stood frozen beneath the flickering lamp. Plastic bag dangling from numb fingers. Milk, bread, ordinary things. Above her, in their apartment window, Marcus's silhouette moved. He was on the phone again. She stared at the window, then at the empty street. For the first time in many years, the ground beneath her feet, the solid, familiar ground, began to shift. The alarm on Kesha's phone never got the chance to ring. She had lain awake most of the night, eyes fixed on the ceiling cracks that looked like lightning frozen in plaster. Otis's words looped in her skull, life and death. Take the bus. You'll understand when you see who is on that bus. At 6:42 a.m. she slipped out of bed before Marcus stirred. She moved like a thief in her own house, quiet steps, shallow breaths. In the kitchen, she filled the kettle, set it to boil, then opened the fridge and stared at nothing. Her hands shook when she pulled out the milk carton. Marcus appeared in the doorway at 6:58, already showered, hair still damp, wearing the navy blazer he saved for important meetings. He smelled of the same sharp cologne from last night. Morning, Kay, you ready? I'll drop you at the store on my way. Kesha closed the fridge door slowly. Her heart was beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. Jasmine's not feeling well, she said. The lie came out smooth, almost gentle. Stomach's upset. I'm going to stay home this morning. Call the doctor if it gets worse. I'll go in later. Marcus didn't even glance toward their daughter's closed bedroom door. Oh, okay. He nodded quickly, already reaching for his keys. Tell her I hope she feels better. I'll be late tonight. Seminar might run over. He leaned in, kissed the air beside her ear, and was gone. The front door clicked shut. The engine of his silver sedan growled to life, then faded down the street. Kesha stood motionless for a full minute, listening to the silence he left behind. Then she moved. She pulled on the same gray coat from yesterday, the one with the fraying cuff, grabbed her purse, left a note on the kitchen table for Jasmine, ran to the pharmacy, back soon. Love you, Mom. The bus station smelled of diesel, burnt coffee, and wet concrete. The 7:15 to Fairview was already idling at the platform, an old coach with faded, blue and white paint, windows streaked with grime. Kesha climbed the steps, paid the fare with exact change, and chose a seat in the very back, next to the window. She kept her head low, hood up, trying to disappear into the vinyl upholstery. The bus was half empty. A man with 2 empty paint buckets between his feet. A college student lost in oversized headphones. An older woman knitting something mustard yellow. And 2 rows ahead, a young woman in a fashionable camel coat, hair pulled into a high, sleek bun, and beside her a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, in a bright pink jacket. Kesha stared out the window as the city blocks slid past. Gray apartment buildings, billboards for car insurance, a laundromat with a flickering neon sign, but she wasn't seeing any of it. Otis's voice kept hammering, "Watch." The girl in the pink jacket grew restless. She climbed onto her knees, turned around, and looked straight at Kesha. Time slowed. The child had Marcus's eyes, the same deep-set shape, the same slight downward tilt at the outer corners that always made his gaze look faintly sorrowful, even when he was smiling. The same small dimple in the chin. Kesha had kissed that dimple countless times over 20 years. And the way the girl twirled a strand of light brown hair around her finger, exactly the nervous little habit Marcus had when he was thinking hard or lying. Kesha's lungs forgot how to pull in air. The girl tilted her head, curious, then offered a shy smile before her mother tugged her back down. "Maya, sit properly." The name landed like a stone in Kesha's chest. Maya. The young woman turned slightly, adjusting the child's jacket. She was beautiful in a careful, expensive way, flawless skin, manicured nails, small diamond studs in her ears. Kesha didn't know her name, but somehow the face fit a name like Chantel. Or Chantel, something smooth and modern. Around the girl's neck, over the pink jacket, hung a silver locket shaped like an oval scallop shell. Kesha knew that locket. 6 months ago, she had found it in the inside pocket of Marcus's gray suit while doing laundry. When she asked, he'd laughed it off a little too quickly. Anniversary gift from Mom. Took it to get the clasp fixed. They lost it at the shop. Can you believe it? I made a scene, but what's done is done. She had believed him. She had patted his arm and said the thought was what mattered. Now that same locket rested against a child's pink coat. The bus swayed around a curve. Kesha gripped the metal handrail in front of her until her knuckles bleached white. The air inside the coach turned thin, insufficient. She wanted to scream, "Stop the bus! Let me off!" But her body refused to move. She was nailed to the seat by the slow, terrible weight of recognition. When the bus reached Fairview and the woman stood, taking the girl's hand, Kesha rose too, legs like cotton. She followed them down the steps, keeping distance. Using other passengers as cover, she felt like a criminal, a stalker, a fool. They walked through a quiet residential neighborhood, neat brick houses, trimmed hedges, American flags on porches. At the end of a lane lined with young maples stood a modest 2-story, with a white picket fence, and a flower bed still blooming with late chrysanthemums, and in the driveway, Marcus's silver sedan. Kesha ducked behind the corner of the neighboring house, pressing her back against cold brick. She peeked out just enough. The front door opened. Marcus stepped onto the porch wearing the reindeer sweater she had bought him last Christmas, the one he claimed he'd left in his office closet by mistake. In his hands was a steaming mug. "Daddy, Daddy!" The girl dropped her little backpack on the path and ran. Marcus set the mug on the railing, crouched, and opened his arms. He lifted her high, spinning her once, twice. His laugh rang out, clear, young, unguarded. Kesha hadn't heard that laugh in years. "My princess," he said, kissing the top of her head. "How was the ride?" He set her down gently. The woman, Chantel, approached. Marcus slid an arm around her waist, easy and possessive. She smiled up at him, reached up to straighten his collar. He leaned down and kissed her, not a peck, not the dutiful brush he had given Kesha that morning, but a real kiss, slow, tender, familiar. Kesha slid down the wall until she was sitting on the damp pavement. Her coat soaked through at the knees. She didn't care. This was not an affair. This was not a fling. This was a second life, a whole other family, a daughter who called him daddy, a woman who received the kisses Keisha had once believed were only hers. And judging by Maya's age, 6, maybe 7, the lie had been running almost as long as Jasmine had been in middle school. Something inside Keisha's chest snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, final breaking of a thread that had been stretched thin for years. She covered her mouth with her hand to trap the sob that tried to escape. Tears came anyway, hot, fast, blurring the house with the white fence into a watercolor smear. Mascara ran in black streaks down her cheeks and dripped onto the gray wool of her coat. Marcus picked up Maya's backpack, wrapped his free arm around Chantel. The three of them walked inside together. The door closed with a soft, ordinary click. Keisha stayed on the ground a long time. She cried until there was nothing left but hiccuping breaths and the cold certainty that everything she had believed about her marriage had been a performance, and she had been the only one who didn't know it was scripted. Eventually, she pushed herself up, using the rough brick for support. Her knees were filthy, her coat hem dark with wet. She brushed at the dirt with numb hands, accomplishing nothing. Then she turned and walked away from the house with the white fence. She didn't remember the bus ride back, didn't remember buying a ticket, sitting down, staring out the window. The city reappeared around her like a dream she had forgotten to wake from. When she finally opened the apartment door, the place smelled of yesterday's dinner and Marcus's cologne. She dropped her purse on the floor, sat at the kitchen table, stared at the cold kettle. 3 hours later, the front door opened. Marcus walked in whistling. Keys clattered onto the side table. The same cheerful sound that had once meant safety. "Kay, I'm home!" Seminar ended early. "I brought cake. Chocolate raspberry, your favorite." He stepped into the kitchen and stopped. Keisha hadn't moved. Her coat lay crumpled on the chair beside her, hem still dirty. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry now. Empty. "Kay, what's wrong? Is Jasmine okay?" She lifted her gaze slowly. "I saw her, Marcus, and the girl, Maya." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Marcus's face drained of color. The pink cake box slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a dull, wet thud. You were in Fairview," he whispered. "She has your eyes," Keisha said. Her voice was flat, colorless. "And your locket. The one you lost." Marcus sank into the chair across from her as though his legs had been cut out from under him. He covered his face with both hands. "Keisha, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to. I didn't know how to tell you." He started to cry. Not the deep, wrenching sobs of real grief. Pitiful, gulping sobs. A child caught stealing. It just happened. 7 years ago. I swear I didn't want to hurt anyone. I love you, Kay, but I couldn't abandon them either. Maya, she's just a child. Keisha looked at the man she had shared a bed, a table, a life with for 20 years. She felt nothing. No anger, no pity. Only a cold, distant disgust. "You didn't want to hurt anyone?" she repeated softly. "You lied to me for 7 years. Every day. Every single day." The front door opened again, without a knock. Mama Estelle swept into the hallway, still wearing her good wool coat and leather gloves. She always kept her own set of keys. "What in God's name is going on here?" Her sharp eyes took in the crying son, the smashed cake, the motionless daughter-in-law. Marcus sniffled, wiped his nose on his sleeve. Estelle peeled off her gloves one finger at a time, placed them on the table like evidence. "So," she said calmly, "you found out after all." Keisha didn't blink. "You knew." "Of course I knew." Estelle gave a short, dry scoff. "Who do you think helped him buy that house on his salary?" "Don't be ridiculous." She pulled out a chair and sat back straight, queen on a throne. "Listen to me, Keisha. You are a good housekeeper, a faithful wife. But you could not give my son the one thing that matters, an heir." Keisha felt the blood leave her face. "We have Jasmine. A daughter is fine." Estelle dismissed with a flick of her wrist. "But a man needs a son, someone to carry the name. You couldn't have more children after Jasmine. Chantel is young, healthy. She's already given him a daughter, and she will give him more, perhaps a boy." Keisha's voice came out hoarse. "You arranged it?" "I helped my son find what he needed." Estelle's tone was steel wrapped in silk. "And if you had been wiser, you would have understood long ago. You saw how he suffered, how he longed for more children. But you buried yourself in that little shop, in your garden, in your excuses. You stopped being a wife, Keisha, You became a convenient roommate. The words sliced straight to the marrow. Kesha remembered the evenings Marcus had tried to talk about another baby. How tired she'd been. How she'd waved him off. We don't have the money, Marcus. We need to focus on Jasmine. She remembered how she'd stopped wearing perfume for him, stopped asking about his dreams. She had thought she was protecting their family, saving money, saving energy. Instead, she had left the door wide open for someone else. I'm not excusing Marcus, Estelle continued, watching Kesha deflate. But you are not blameless. Now listen carefully. There will be no divorce. Marcus has a career. Elections are coming. He cannot afford a scandal, and neither can you. Where would you go? A one-bedroom rental on a clerk's salary. Think of Jasmine. Do you want her to be the girl whose mother was thrown away for a younger woman? Kesha said nothing. Estelle leaned forward. Everything stays as it is. Marcus lives here, visits Chantel on weekends. You keep your status, your apartment. Your daughter finishes school in peace. Everyone wins. And if I say no? Estelle smiled, a thin, cold crescent. Who is asking you? That night, Kesha sat on the balcony long after the apartment went dark. The city glittered below, streetlights, windows, moving cars. Somewhere out there, dozens of people knew. The clerks at the store, Marcus's colleagues, maybe even her friends. They had all seen the truth and watched her walk around blind. Convenient roommate. The phrase burned. She looked down at her hands, working hands, scarred. Ring still on her finger, and realized she had helped build the cage herself. Fear of conflict, fear of being alone, fear of admitting the love had quietly died. But fear was gone now. In its place was something colder, clearer. She went back inside. Marcus was asleep on the couch, knees pulled up, covered with the old throw blanket. He looked small, pathetic. Kesha walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out the old travel bag she hadn't used since their honeymoon. She didn't know where she would go. She didn't know how she would live. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would never again be convenient. And she would never again live inside someone else's lie. The travel bag stood in the corner of the bedroom like a silent accusation. Kesha had packed it the night before, slowly, deliberately. A few t-shirts, underwear, the old jeans she wore to the garden, her favorite scarf that still smelled faintly of the lavender she used to grow. Every item felt like a brick being laid in the foundation of something new. Something terrifying, something hers. But in the morning, Jasmine woke up feverish, pale cheeks, dry cough, small body curled under the quilt. Maternal instinct rose like a tide and drowned everything else. Kesha stayed. She boiled water for chamomile tea, measured out children's acetaminophen, stroked her daughter's hot forehead, and whispered that everything would be all right. Every time she passed the living room, she saw Marcus sitting on the couch, head in his hands, silent, sullen. Their eyes met once. His were red, hers were ice. At 11:47 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The park. Same bench. In 1 hour. Important. Oh, she knew who it was. She told Jasmine she was going to the pharmacy for more medicine. Kissed her daughter's damp temple, left. The maple tree was bare now, its branches scratching at the low gray sky. Mr. Otis sat upright on the bench, hands folded over the curved handle of his cane. Beside him lay an old, battered logbook, faux leather cover cracked at the edges, the kind motor pools used to issue drivers 20 years ago. Kesha sat next to him without a word. Shame burned in her throat. Shame that he had warned her. Shame that he had watched her humiliation unfold. Did you see? He asked quietly. I saw. He nodded once as if a document had been officially stamped. Then now you're ready to listen. He slid the logbook toward her. Kesha opened it. The handwriting was large, angular, pressed hard into the paper. Dates, times, mileage, addresses. March 12th, Fairview, MLK BLVD 14, Weighted 3 Hearst Toy Store. 80, April 5th, North Bank, Fairview. Cash withdrawal. Delivered package to Belvedere St. 14. Moy 20, Health First Clinic, Fairview. Paid pediatrician appointment. Page after page. 5 years of meticulous, damning records. I wasn't just driving him, Otis said, staring straight ahead. I was his alibi. Otis, tell Kesha we got held up at the site. Otis, stop at the florist, buy roses. Say they're from me. Otis, I need to make a call. I stayed quiet because my wife was sick. Pension small. I sold my conscience for a paycheck, Kesha. She kept turning pages. A year ago, the entries changed tone. October 14th, back from Fairview. He was happy, drunk on it. Maya said her first full sentence. I said, Councilman Vaughn, Jasmine has her music school graduation today. You promised. He looked at me like I was nothing. Old man, you drive. Don't stick your nose where it don't belong. Kesha's strong. She'll manage. Chantel needs me. She's alone. Next day he fired me. Said I was unreliable. Kesha stopped on a page from 6 months ago. Central Bank. Withdrawal from Education Fund. $3,000. Transferred a card for roof repair. Fairview. Her stomach dropped. The Education Fund. Jasmine's future. Every extra shift at the store. Every skipped lunch. Every winter coat she hadn't bought. Every sacrifice had gone into that account. For university. For tutors. For architecture school. Jasmine's dream. She flipped forward, frantic. Withdrawal. Education Fund, $1,000. Withdrawal. Education Fund, $5,000. Purchase. Nursery furniture. Fairview. He emptied it, she whispered. Almost completely. Otis nodded. I drove him to the bank every time. He said it was investing. Said money has to work. It was working on a new roof. A private kindergarten for Maya. Kesha closed the book. Her hands trembled. This was worse than betrayal of the heart. This was theft from his own child. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked. I was afraid. Afraid of him. Afraid you wouldn't believe me. You loved him, Kesha. You worshipped the ground he walked on. He covered her hand with his rough, dry palm. But now you've got nothing left to lose. Take this, it's evidence. If he tries to lie, if he says there's no money, show him. Let him know his secret books aren't so secret. Kesha gripped the logbook until the edges bit into her skin. Thank you, Mr. Otis. Ain't nothing to thank me for. I'm an accomplice, too. I drove him. I kept quiet. Forgive me if you can. He stood slowly, leaning heavily on his cane, and walked away down the path, a small, stooped figure carrying decades of someone else's sins. Kesha remained on the bench until the wind began to turn the pages again, revealing more. Designer coat, $2,500. Spa retreat for mom, $1,000. She remembered last Christmas. Marcus telling her, Kay, it's tight this year. Bonus got cut, no gifts. Just being together is enough. She had smiled. Cooked from what was in the fridge, told herself it was fine. He had been buying coats and spa days with their daughter's university money. Something inside her finally burned clean. Pity, doubt, fear, all of it turned to ash. In its place, cold, quiet, precise rage. She stood, movements sharp, decisive, zipped the logbook into her bag, walked home. When she entered the apartment, she didn't speak. She simply dropped the logbook onto the kitchen table in front of Marcus with a sound like a judge's gavel. He jumped, opened it, flipped pages. With every sheet, his face shrank. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter. What matters is what's written here. You stole from Jasmine, your own daughter. He leapt up, paced, clutched his head. I'll return it. All of it, I swear. It was temporary. Debts, the roof, the coat. I'll sell the car tomorrow. I'll take a loan. Kesha, please. Don't leave. Don't tell Jasmine. Don't ruin me. Fear poured from him, raw, animal fear of losing comfort, status, reputation. She pulled out paper and pen. Right. What? A promissory note. You will repay every cent taken from the education fund within 30 days, and you will end all contact with that family, completely. His hand shook as he wrote. When he finished, he pushed the paper toward her, tears streaming again. I'm a fool, Kay. Thank you for giving me a chance. The next week was surreal. Marcus came home at 6 sharp, brought groceries, expensive things they used to reserve for holidays, fixed the dripping bathroom faucet, sat with Jasmine over her drafting homework, praising her lines, calling her sharp eyes. Jasmine glowed. She didn't know why her father had suddenly become present. She only knew he was there. Kesha watched from doorways and felt the ice in her chest begin to thaw. Just a little. Maybe people could change. Maybe fear of real loss could sober a man. Even Mama Estelle softened. Invited Kesha for tea on Saturday. Best china, pastries, gentle words. We got too heated. We're all human. Marcus told me about the car, the money. He's ready to do anything to keep this family. And I support him now. Family is everything. Kesha drank the tea, listened, wanted, desperately wanted, to believe. That Sunday morning, the kitchen filled with sunlight and the smell of vanilla pancakes. Kesha hummed while she flipped them. Marcus was still asleep. Jasmine had gone jogging. For the first time in weeks, Kesha felt light, hopeful. She believed the worst was over. She believed love and patience could repair anything. She didn't know it was only the calm before the true storm. The pen ran dry while she was writing a grocery list. She remembered Marcus kept spares in his briefcase. She opened it, rummaged in the side pocket. Her fingers closed around a glossy square. An ultrasound photo, grainy black and white, a tiny shape in the center. Date, May 22, 2 days ago. On the back, in Marcus's sprawling handwriting, "My son, my heir, waiting for you." The second phone, the one he claimed he'd thrown in the river, began ringing. Inside his coat pocket, Kesha pulled it out. "Screen, Mom," she answered. Didn't speak, just listened. Mama Estelle's voice, loud and clear. "Marcus, why aren't you picking up?" Chantel called. "She's crying, hormones." "Call her, calm her down. Tell her everything's going according to plan." Silence. "Be patient, son. Just a little longer. Once Chantel has the grandson, we transfer the land title and kick Kesha out. Let her roll. The lawyer says once we register it, joint property we can sell for the debts." Kesha ended the call. The phone slipped and cracked against the floor. Marcus stumbled out of the bedroom, yawning. "Kesha, what fell?" She turned slowly, held up the ultrasound in one hand, pointed at the phone with the other. He saw. Sleep vanished. "You were digging through my things." "Helper," she said. The word tasted like metal. "I'm just a helper. Someone to tolerate until the son is born." Marcus poured water, drank, turned. "And what did you want to be, Kesha? A wife? Look at yourself. You turned into a shadow. A function. Fetch, serve, wash. Nothing to talk about except potatoes and grades." "Chantel is alive," she laughs. "She looks at me like a man, not an ATM." The word struck deep because some part was true. She had hidden in routine, been afraid to ask if he was happy. "I let our marriage die," she said quietly. "I became convenient, but that didn't give you the right to steal from Jasmine, or to plan my disposal." He smirked. "The land, Grandmama's lake lot. Half is mine by marriage. We need it for debts, for comfort, for the baby. Personal inheritance isn't divided. The lawyer will find a way." Kesha looked at the stranger she had loved for 20 years. "Get out. This is my apartment too. Get out, or I go to the balcony and scream. I tell the neighbors. I call your office. I make the scandal you're terrified of. I have nothing left to lose, do you?" He spat on the floor, grabbed his briefcase. "Let's see how you sing when Mother gets her hands on you." The door slammed. Kesha sank to the hallway floor. The ultrasound photo was crumpled in her fist. They wanted war. They would get one. But not for him, not for the past, for her dignity, for Jasmine. She didn't stay inside the poisoned walls. She took a hoe, garden gloves, went to the small plot behind the building, the land they wanted to steal. She chopped weeds with fury, dirt flew. She didn't feel the blisters forming. "Kesha." Pop Franklin stood at the gate, tall, thin, shoulders, permanently stooped from 40 years of living in Estelle's shadow. "Please leave, Pop. I have nothing to say to your family. I'm not here for them. I'm here as a man." He stepped inside, laid a hand on the old apple tree. 40 years I watched her break people. Me first. I wanted to paint. She said, "No, go to the factory, stability." I went. She molded Marcus next. Made him this. His voice cracked. I stayed silent when she drove out his first girlfriend. Silent when she taught him to lie. I thought family. We endure. But today, he pulled a small black flash drive from his cardigan. This morning they sat in the kitchen. Estelle, Marcus, the lawyer. I recorded from the next room. Everything, how they plan to trick you into signing over the land while you're upset about Jasmine. How Marcus laughed, called you gullible. Kesha took the drive. It felt heavy as lead. Why? I'm saving what's left of my soul. I don't want to die knowing I let them destroy another life. He stepped closer. Chantel is at the conservatory right now. Recital, her students. Marcus is there, bought her a ruby necklace. Said it was from his mother for the grandson. Kesha remembered him saying a month ago. "We can't afford new boots yet." "Kay, hold on till winter. Half the town will be there," Pop said. Estelle fears only one thing, publicity. If the perfect family cracks in front of everyone, she loses everything. Kesha squeezed the flash drive. A plan formed, sharp, merciless. No long court battles, no lawyers she couldn't afford. Just truth. Loud, public, unsilenceable. Thank you, Pop. He nodded. A tear tracked through gray stubble. Go, daughter. Don't pity them. They never pitied you. She ran inside, changed, grabbed Jasmine's portable Bluetooth speaker. 20 minutes to the conservatory. She felt no fear, only steel. The conservatory lobby buzzed, perfume, flowers, nervous children in recital dresses. Kesha moved through the crowd like a blade. She saw them instantly. Marcus in his best suit, holding a velvet box. Chantel, glowing, pregnant, beautiful, laughing at something he said. Mama Estelle standing slightly apart, regal, watching. Kesha walked straight to them. Intermission. Violins quiet. Lobby hushed. Good evening. Marcus turned. Smile died. Kesha, what are you? I came to offer congratulations. She set the speaker on a program table. Chantel frowned. Marcus, who is this? This is Chantel, Kesha said clearly. The helper one must tolerate until the son is born. She pressed play. Mama Estelle's voice filled the lobby, amplified, unmistakable. Once Chantel births the grandson, we transfer the land title and kick Kesha out. Let her roll on all fours. The main thing is to trick her into signing while she's emotional. The lawyer says once it's joint property, we sell for the debts. Gasps. Heads turned. Marcus lunged for the speaker. Pop Franklin stepped in front, arms crossed, blocking him. Marcus's voice now boomed. Chantel, tolerate her whims. She'll give birth. Then maybe she'll get boring too. The main thing is the boy. Chantel went white. You said you loved me, that we were family. Chantel, it's edited. She's crazy. You're paying for my delivery with your daughter's money? Her voice cracked. You stole from your own child? The recording ended. Silence swallowed the room. Every eye on the perfect family. Estelle's face blotched red. She tried to move. Pop blocked her. I'm leaving, Estelle, he said quietly. Divorce, my pension. Live with your heir. Chantel tore the ruby necklace from her throat, threw it at Marcus. Don't ever come near me. She ran out, pushing through the crowd. Marcus stood alone, velvet box in hand, nothing left to give. You destroyed everything, he whispered. No, Kesha said. I just turned on the light. She walked away. No triumph, only bone-deep exhaustion and a strange, ringing peace. 8 months later, winter had come, thick snow, quiet streets. Kesha stood behind the counter of her tiny market stall. Comforts of home. Linen tablecloths, embroidered napkins, soft throws. Her own business, started with money from selling garden vegetables and a small loan. Pop Franklin co-signed. He came by often now, brought pastries, helped with the ledger, lived in a rented room, painted again, looked finally alive. Marcus had vanished. Chicago, maybe, running from debts, from shame. Mama Estelle stayed in her big apartment. Neighbors said she no longer left. Kesha straightened a stack of towels. Her hands were still working hands. No ring on her finger anymore, just a thin white line where it used to be. The bell jingled. Jasmine walked in, cheeks pink from cold, drafting tube slung over her shoulder. Mom, I passed finals with honors. Kesha smiled. Good girl. Herbal tea. They sat in the back, mugs steaming. Outside, snow fell, soft, steady, covering the city in white. Kesha looked at her daughter, at the steam rising between them. It wasn't wild happiness. It was quieter, sadder, the joy of someone who survived a shipwreck and built a small, sturdy house on the shore. She had lost a husband, 20 years, faith in forever love. Sometimes she still cried at night, remembering the Marcus she once believed in. The one who perhaps never existed. But she had found herself. No longer convenient, no longer a shadow. Kesha Vaughn, a woman who knew how to stand when the ground disappeared. Later closing up, she saw Mr. Otis walking arm in arm with his wife down the snowy avenue. He noticed her, stopped, raised a hand. Kesha waved back. She stepped outside, breathed deep. Frost, pine, snow, and the smallest, most fragile scent of hope. Life went on. Different, hard, lonely. Honest.